Hello, my name is Kevin Rourke, and today I'm going to tell you about the 8th session of my ongoing Only War campaign. I'm sorry, it's been a little while since I've done just talking about any of the sessions. In fact, I've to do recording for 2 of the sessions today. I'm currently in the process of moving, so that is being a little bit awkward at the moment. But I finally found a little bit of time where I can talk about it. And starting session 8, we'll talk about that right now. Things happen. As you may have found, there's a new intro. The game started off with the players having returned back, and they saw that the first Kinog light infantry being raised, a low-born unit, as they saw it, that everyone in that regiment, even though there were some nobles in the regiment, officers and such, that these people were not worthy of being there. There's different degrees. For example, Corporal Jorgensen was less upset with this. He was happy that he was actually being put up as a poster boy. He was happy, that he wasn't as upset as some of the others. Sergeant McBrandier definitely was taking this as an insult, because they had not, in his mind, being a noble, they had not earned their place. Even the nobles were people who, by and large, had not succeeded in getting into the 13th Kinog. These were the failures, the rejects, and now they were being given this thing. They had not earned it. They had not gotten this position. So the players their characters were annoyed. But we had an interesting situation where they were sent off for their they got to see some of the feedback. We moved forward a bit of time. The players got sent off another mission. They found out that there were going to be some orcs. There was going to be a convoy of supplies for some orcs going through an area, and they didn't know exactly when it was going through. But it wasn't a complete bottleneck. It was kind of a mountainous area. They'd have to get themselves in a position where they could see a few paths that the orcs could go through. They didn't always follow the same path, but they'd be able to see. And they'd been equipped with a couple of sniper rifles. They were to kill one of the lieutenants of the orc warlord, and just take him out there. Give him 3 additional long lasses, as well as some melee cloaks, a few other pieces of equipment like this. And they were there. They did pretty well in setting up. They actually got Corporal Jorgensen did very well in setting up, picking out their location. They were using Tactica Imperialis as well as Survival to pick out good locations where they have fresh water supplies and different things. And they set up and they tried to overlook a few different positions, because they know exactly where the orcs would be coming through, but they tried to cover as many bases as they could. I just had it since Medic Black Throne hadn't shown up in so long, and he had exhibited some questionable behaviour beforehand. His character was escorted away by the mysterious person who showed up when they were there fighting after Dark Elder. This individual escorted him away for other duties for an indefinite period. So that was interesting. What the players they were in no way going to try and cause any problems. Although they missed their medic, they weren't going to stir up any trouble. The players did a pretty good job of setting up, as I said, and when the orc convoy came along, they started firing shots, but they noticed that it was going past an area where there was a bit of an overhang, but there was scree up on top of it, rubble and such, lots of rocks and boulders, and they succeeded and knew if they could cause some kind of explosion, if they could damage one of the vehicles, that they could potentially destroy the orcish vehicle, that they could basically cause a lot of trouble. Not necessarily because the convoy was quite large, but they were primarily there to kill the target, but any damage they could do to the convoy would look well on them as well. So they made awareness checks. That was going to be quite difficult. They noticed that there was like a barrel of, it looked like it had a promethium symbol on it. It could still be holding promethium on it, just in amongst some of the things, and decided to fire it. Although some of the players were a bit confused. They thought it was just a big tanker. It's like, no, this is a barrel. It might not even contain promethium. It did at one point, but it still contains anything flammable. But they were able to do enough damage that they caused a screen of rubble start falling down, which definitely made it difficult for the convoy. And they were able to pick off a few, and they managed to confirm the kill on the Orc Knob before pulling back. The Orcs were closing their position. They to maintain radio sounds for the entire mission. They were there for about 2 weeks, waiting for whenever these Orcs would show up. Setting up shifts and things. And they got back home. They got back to Valkyrie and they started flying back. But as they got close to the base, they noticed that there was smoke coming from some of the locations. They couldn't pick up anybody in the Vox. They told the Valkyrie to basically start circling around while they landed and tried to figure out what was going on. They found bodies of various guardsmen from various regiments had been killed, and they noticed some of them had been killed with las weapon rounds. So they were confused and concerned. They're thinking, okay, a number of things had happened. There was some kind of recidivists, or did we get attacked by human mercenaries, or what exactly is going on? But they came across a group of, by and large, they're mainly Maccabean Janissaries, who are all members of the cult of St. Drusus, as the prominent cult on their homeworld, because on Maccabeus Quintus, their homeworld, St. Drusus was supposedly, I believe that was the world where he supposedly died, and then miraculously came back to life. Someone tried to assassinate him. He came back to life. I think that's the name off the top of my head. So it was a bit of an odd circumstance in that respect. But they met these guys and they're like, look, what's actually going on with this? So these guys, there was a lieutenant leading them, and they saw these guys explained to them that there were enemy forces, that they basically, part of the Imperial Guard had become corrupt. Not every member of every regiment, but that large chunks of them had become corrupt, and they were going to purge and kill the heretics. Because the players were being nice and cordial about it, they weren't being inclined to be heretics. It's like, you can come with us. It's like, players like, well, we'll say what you won't want to see evidence, but we'll see. And some of the guys are thinking, we'll see what happens. We'll try and find out more. There's no reason we have to fight these guys. I might be able to steer them away. Let's try and find out a bit more. But after a while, they came upon a location where they saw they had about 30 guys with them in addition to their squad. But there was also, there was a group of, there was Deck Corps of Krieg there, as well as members of the Kinog 1st Light Infantry and 13th Kinog, and they saw that, I saw these guys, and basically I was like, roll initiative, and Sergeant McBrander tried to calm things down, and he said, he tried to calm them down. I can't remember exactly what he said, but he tried to get everyone not to start immediately shooting at each other. But we had a bit of a problem there where just stuff the guys didn't know. I was like, you can roll command, it's difficult -20. He actually succeeds because he's very good at command. The effect that was going to having wasn't that they wouldn't attack, it was that they wouldn't attack the PC squad, but they were going to keep attacking the Maccabean Janissaries for reasons that will become more apparent as I continue discussing the campaign. Unfortunately, Sergeant McBrander was like, we're not going to fight them, but he didn't officially give an order regarding this. Trooper Love moved forward, and using hip shooting, he fired his flamer to hit and actually kill quite a number of these guys. I wasn't quite doing it cinematically, but I thought these guys, they're going to be, I'm not going to use like rules for comrades. I'm going to use these guys as guardsmen, but I've got their wounds low enough so we can just keep going. And I give an indication towards that to the guys, like, well, these aren't all elite units, kind of whatever. So unfortunately, afterwards, Corporal Jorgensen goes over and he starts talking to one of these guys who's been a young man. I think he was from the 1st Kinog Light Infantry, so he's a lowborn, but a young man. He just horribly burned all along his face where the flamer had hit. He was dying, and he was, he was clearly, he was freaked out, but he was so confused looking up at Corporal Jorgensen that why was Corporal Jorgensen? Why were the Immortals attacking them? He didn't understand. He was a young man, and we had a great moment where Corporal Jorgensen's player was there in character. His player was in character and just really upset. And I think it made the players roll. I think it might have made them roll willpower rolls. I did it at one stage anyway, due to up to this point they've always been fighting aliens. Now they're fighting guardsmen. And it became very apparent very quickly that they're both fighting. Everyone claims they're fighting for the Emperor, they're fighting for the Imperium. After talking to these guys, that basically, as far as they were concerned, the McCavian Janissaries had gone crazy and just started attacking everyone. And Sergeant McBrander started giving out to the Janissaries, why did you start shooting at them? It was like, well, you know, they're heretics, they have to be taken down. They're not like you seem to like, but these guys haven't. And he kind of gets up face to face with the missionary, and some says like, oh, well, you don't have any proof, kind of a thing. It's like, you know, you said, and Amen said like, well, you said you'd stay here and you'd you know, you'd say you'd wait to see proof, and we'll show you proof. And it's like, yeah, but at this stage things were too heated to keep going. Now, Sergeant McBrander's player pointed out, they never actually said that they'd show them proof before this point. They just said they'd wait to see proof. But now, guardsmen blood had been spilt before them. They had to choose what to do. And they turned on these. Now, some of the guys had taken casualties, so it was the squad of 10 versus about 26. But Sergeant McBrander was able to cut down the preacher, which was a big enough thing. He was able to cut down the preacher, and you had Trooper Love bringing the flamer to bear once more, and Corporal Jorgensen firing the long last. But actually, a very cool moment. After they had taken down these guys, they managed to make the group break and flee. When they brought them down to a certain number, I said, yeah, I'm just going to have them break, because it would be boring having us fighting all these guys. But they're getting these attacks until you make them break. But they managed to make these guys break. And I said afterwards, well, there's a few bits of gear around if you want to take them. There was a plasma gun, a melting gun, and a power sword, or some things that really stuck out. But there's a very cool moment where Corporal Jorgensen's player went over to the uniform of the dead McCavian Janissary lieutenant, and he took the lieutenant's stripes, or the lieutenant's insignia, and he kind of put it in with the belongings of the young guy. Because as far as he was concerned, I think it was a Lober, and it might have just been a member of the 13th Kinog. But I think at that particular moment, it didn't matter for once. They felt like they had done wrong. Even if they hadn't, well, not necessarily they had done wrong, but something was wrong here, that this young man deserves some kind of compensation. He started to be honoured, because as far as they could make out now, that's pretty obvious. Well, I don't know who's right and who's wrong, but McCavian Janissaries don't seem to be playing nice. They were able to make radio contact with a member of the 13th Kinog, who informed them that they didn't know what was going on, but they were able to meet up with them in person. Later on, they went through the base. They were able to they got to see many firefights. There were members of the 1st Kinog Light Infantry, as well as the 13th Kinog and Deck Corps group fighting inside the Janissaries against other groups of various guardsmen. But you never saw McCavian Janissaries fighting McCavian Janissaries. And by and large, the majority were fighting beside McCavian Janissaries or Calixa sector-borne units, but not entirely. And they were able to meet up with this particular sergeant. Sergeant Yoshi, I think his name was. And he explained that this had been going on for 3 days. All he knew was suddenly people were fighting. Didn't know what was going on, didn't know what the cause of it was. They were asking, well, where are the commissars? Where are the commissar sentinels? Well, they haven't seen a commissar in days. But they decided that he had heard that there was a rallying point. The rallying point had been set up by the subsector governor, and a rallying point had been set up by Colonel Reich of the Deck Corps of Kree as well. But these were two. There shouldn't be two rallying points, and they were some. It's like obviously it was going to be difficult, though not necessarily impossible. It was difficult for them to try and side on the cabin Janissaries. All didn't understand the whole situation yet. So they said, right, we'll lead this group of guys out and get them out here. And this is like 50 NPCs, and a lot of wounded. So they're like, right, we're going to try and avoid engagements. We're just going to get out of here, figure out what's going on, get back under the right chain of command, and figure out where we're going to go from here. So the guys made their exodus with these NPCs in tow, and they were able to spot. They went towards the Death Corps of Krieg location first, and they made radio contact with them. They're like, "Oh, you guys can come out to us," and they're like, "Well, no, you can come into it." They had a small camp where it seemed to be like a platoon. They had a chimera and a little emplacement set up, because as I said, like, I don't think these guys are going to give away the exact location for any point, but we're going to have kind of a location, like a location where their forces are properly gathering, but they'll bring back guys probably to escort kind of thing. So they had a small but defendable position. But this Lieutenant Wolfgang, who was in charge of this place, gave his word that they would be allowed in if they went. Well, so they ended up with Sergeant McBrander going down and Commissar Barca. And this Lieutenant Wolfgang, explained the situation as he understood it. The guys, I said, well, you're after, you just come back on a mission, you're after walking all night. You're tired, your throats are dry and dusty. And it's been one hell long march. But this guy's, he's fighting it with water at least anyway, and he explained the situation as he understands it. For some reason, Lord Marshal Gottschalk, I think his name was, Ganzeric, that's it. No, Gottschalk, I think, is the name of their colonel of their regiment, 13th Kinog. Lord Marshal Ganzeric had, as well as many members of the Drossian faith, had started attacking the rest of the Imperial Guard. The subsector governor had made had tried to rally people, but then Colonel Reich had thought it was improper for him to be doing this, that he shouldn't have done this. So they tried to set up their own thing there. They were worried that the subsector governor might not have the Imperium's best interests at heart. And he explained the situation to him like that, and they're like, okay. He's like, well, I hope you will be coming back with your men, but if not, hopefully this can all be settled. Okay. So they moved off. They went back and they said, well, let's try and find out what's going on with the subsector governor. And they went back. I think they're trying to figure out where they should go. They went down and they talked with, they went to a different location and they talked with, there was only 3 members of the PDF waiting. These were guys for the rally point for the subsector governor, where he had set up rally points where his emissary had anyway. But it made it very clear that the Colonel Reich had done this in the name of Lord Sector Hacks. But not enough time had passed in 3 days, realistically, unless it was exceptionally good, for him to have actually communicated with Lord Sector Hacks. So he was operating outside his bounds. And the subsector governor was within his bounds after seeing the Commodore Ministratum. He was within his bounds as the Lord of Subsector to set rallying point when it's blatantly obvious that the General Sergeant, the Lord Marshal in charge of the Imperial Guard has been compromised. As everyone could agree on at this point, everyone who wasn't with the Lord Marshal could agree, that Lord Marshal Ganzer could agree, yeah, there's something wrong there. And they on that technicality, they decided to err on that side, and they met up with the PDF and they went out to camp. They got to see their captain again, the guy who had been cooking them the meals and sent them the last mission, and they were told there was a lot of confusion going on, and this was like a camp where everything was all disorganized. There's elements of different forces. I think it was this session that they found out as well that Colonel Gottschalk of the 13th Kinog, the colonel in charge of their own regiment, had sided with Lord Marshal Ganzeric and that there are elements of drone forces on each side. They also got to meet with I think it was the company or brigade commissar Lepew, and I know that was next session they got to meet with him. I'll explain that the next time. But we ended with this session where the players had made some choices. We had a lot of great role playing that session and the session after. Just there was a bit of combat, but there was a lot of confusion trying to find out what's going on, why these things are happening, and finding out that an awful lot of the NPCs are in exactly the same boat, that they don't know what's going on. So that we ended the session with them knowing that they would be going forward to the Subsector Gunner's Palace, the Sanguine Palace. They would be returning there. Their presence had been requested, so they were going to be shipped out. And I'll explain to you what happens from there in the next video. I'll see you again. Goodbye.